What's up YouTube, Frayed Hero here. I'm gonna show you guys my Ripple Rush deck, quote unquote. Um, so starting off, we're using Alex just because it's Ripple and the ride chain's not bad. You can actually go without the 0 and 1 if you really wanted to, but for the sake of consistency, I decided to stick with this. And then on to grade zeros, the triggers. 4 Ripple crits, 4 Supersonic Sailors, 2 extra random crits, 2 draws. Probably would swap these for the Malikas, but my friend has them right now. So there's that. And then 4 heals, nothing too odd about that. You could argue that 12 crit is better, but in my opinion, even in rush decks, you kind of want the sustainability because you might not draw into all your rear guards. So draws might help to get into there. And since it's ride chain, 4 of the grade 1s. And then 4 of the best grade 1 in the deck, Odysseus. I'll explain to you a couple ways you use him. I'll get back to that later. And then running 2 penguins, as we like to call them. It's an inside joke. Don't mind it. But anyway, the reason why you'd run him, or at least I run him, is because his Soul Blast effect on call is Soul Blast 1 to give a unit +3. And then, I mean, it does have its GB1 skill, which is actually kind of nice because it can go back to your hand. But it's usually just there to thin out Soul and to make your early game a little better by hitting a little better numbers. Or mid game too, depending on what happens. And then I'm running 4 regular perfect guards right now. It really depends on how you're gonna build it because originally I had 3 quintet walls, but the issue I came across was managing counterblasts. So you could probably mitigate that running the jellyfish, but the argument behind running quintet walls is because it doesn't take as many cards out of your hand because it takes from the deck and it's supposedly rushing down, so you shouldn't have to get to the point where you'll deck out or something and +2 Legion. But like I said, managing counterblast is a pain, so this is where you could also use Plato to unflip, which is kind of nice, but you can't block rears. So I don't know, it's got more testing to do. And then 1 tech penguin. I'm running 15 grade 1s, I believe. Should be the correct number. This is just Soul Blast, and it can get you a rear guard early. And running 1 copy, so the likelihood of you riding it is very slim. On to grade 2s. 4 Pavrots, the thing you probably want to be sitting on since he's actually great, especially in the grade 2 game. Since on hit, you can stand a rear guard and give it +3. And then he combos well with the ride chain, you know, since if you miss ride into a different grade 2, you can potentially superior ride into this from your deck when you check the top 10. And one of your hopeful ride targets, if you miss chain or if you want to purposely try to go for it, would be this here turtle. The whole thing with this is if you ride him, you can use a skill called, or check the top card if it's a 1 or 2 superior, call it, and then it's just nice because you can get early game calls pretty easily. And then if you're on the grade 1, you could potentially superior ride into this. If not, you have the Odysseus to shove a different card into your soul, and then superior ride into this, and then call this out of the soul, give it +2, and then use its skill to potentially call another rear guard, which is a really great early game play. And then moving on to the rest of the grade 2s are 4 Lapis. I'm not sure what language, but we're running him at 4 because it's a Ripple name. And for the most part, I am maxing out as much Ripple names for this deck, and it's a 12k attacker. So ideally, it'll apply the pressure early game too, hitting for pretty good numbers. Could make 19 columns early game. If you're sacky enough, you know, you can turtle into this with like a back row full of ripples and just get some nice plays. And then that makes 12 grade 2s. On to the grade 3s. Running 4 Miltiades. This is where the turtle, Odysseus also comes into play, because ideally you'll have 1 or 2 maybe in your back row. 3 would be fantastic, but it's not very realistic. So what you would do is you'd ride your grade 3, use his on ride skill, counterblast, check like your top 3 of your deck, add a ripple, send the rest to the drop, and then following that, and then use superior call. Sorry, wait, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So you added this to your hand, these go to the drop, you have an Odysseus on board, activate Odysseus, shove some random other card that you have into your soul, superior ride another Miltiades from your deck, counterblast another card, check another 3 for a ripple, add it to your hand. You don't have to do this because it'll burn through your counterblast, but plusing is always great. And then superior call +2, and then perform Legion. You could Legion on the first one assuming you had the drop zone for it, so you can do this as much as you want to, as long as you have unused Odysseus's and ripple grade 3s. You're gonna ideally be, if you're gonna spam this, you can do this as much as you want in one turn, as long as you have the grade 3 targets and counterblasts and cards to shove in your soul. So then you can just superior call, put this in the drop zone, and then send it back through Legion to keep this cycle going until you're out of counterblasts, if you're not doing the counterblast method, because you kind of want to dig through your deck by using the counterblast method to mill all your units, and to make your deck like primarily triggers, kind of like a Dot X kind of play. So that's kind of why you want as many ripples, so you can actually dig out the cards from your deck that aren't triggers. And then last but not least, we're running 2 Genoviuses. Another pro tip is when you're legioning, you do not have to grab your mate. You can send 4 cards back and not grab a mate, so that way eventually when you're out of counterblasts and Odysseus to use, you're gonna finally add your mate. That way you don't have it, like you seek your mate and then you ride over, it's stuck in your soul, you have no way of soul blasting unless you have like the 3 targets that I'm currently running. So that's basically how you'd avoid getting stuck in a position where the final one doesn't have a mate, unless you're really unlucky and damage them or they're all in your hand or something, but in that case you probably would have called over it to send it back later. And that's basically the entire deck. For the G zone, I'll be honest, I don't have the cards on me. Fallen Winter has the Aquaforce strides right now, so realistically right now the G zone is looking like 2 Commander Thavas, because he's fantastic to apply pressure as a decent tech stride, because it can give you an extra attack from the back row, to apply a little pressure. And there actually are builds in Japan that focus more around him, because his support is fantastic. And then 2 to 3 of the Genovius stride, realistically 3 because he is on hit. He can superior call ripples to get more attacks in, but he is a persona flip when he hits, so there's that issue, which is why 3 is kind of a recommended number. And then I would say to run 2 Lambroses, but there's no way to get 4 attacks, as you can see in here. So you would consider either bumping up the Ripple grade 2, or you can run more techs, like Blizza at 1, just to have a high-hitting Vanguard that doesn't rely on too much. And then Madu, because you Legion with the 10k, or if you just get stuck with 2 Genoviuses in your hand or something, or you end up riding Genovius and can actually stride for some weird reason. And that's more or less what you'd run, other than maybe the promo from Sneak. But other than that, there's not too many good options for this deck to stride because you're mostly focusing on the grade 2 plays and just killing them, preventing them from doing stuff. And then when you finally get to the point of needing to do stuff, you just go into the Miltiades with Odysseus's and just make your deck triggers and proceed to try to win that turn. And if that fails, you either try again next turn or you just YOLO stride. That's basically how this deck would play out. There are different ways of playing ripples, but this is the more rush oriented build, not focusing on anything too late game. It's meant to kill your opponent as fast as you can without expending too many resources, which is why the turtle is there. And that's all I really have to say about the deck. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let me know. I'll see you guys next time.